5 years, huh? I murmured, twirling the stem of my wineglass as Michael and I sat across from each other in our favorite local spot. It was nothing fancy, just like him. A tech guy who could fix anything from a frozen laptop to a broken heart, and me, lost in the world of books, always one page away from a different life. The clink of our glasses should have felt like a celebration, a milestone. But as I looked into Michael's eyes, full of love and unwavering trust, a restless itch crept up my spine. It was an itch for something new, something thrilling. That itch only grew stronger a few nights later, surrounded by laughter and too many cocktails with the girls. I just need a little excitement, I confessed, my voice a blend of longing and guilt. The words felt like a betrayal, not just to Michael but to the life we'd built together. Yet, they hung there, an undeniable truth I couldn't shake off. Excitement found me sooner than I expected, in the form of Alex. He was the unexpected splash of color in my grayscale world, capturing moments with his camera that seemed to scream adventure. Our conversation at the beach event wasn't planned, it was fate playing its hand. His smile, his charm, they were intoxicating, and before I knew it, I was drawn into his orbit. The affair began with a whisper, a secret only the sea and the seagulls were privy to. Our meetings were stolen moments, hidden away from prying eyes, where the world consisted of just Alex and me. Each laugh, each touch, was a brushstroke on a canvas I never knew I was painting. But secrets, especially those bathed in guilt and forbidden pleasure, have a way of clawing their way to the surface. Zoe, my friend who missed nothing, saw us one evening. The look in her eyes, it was a mirror to my own fear. The fear of being caught, of losing everything for a fleeting desire. Michael's suspicions came like the slow rise of dawn, inevitable yet still shocking. The late nights, my guarded phone, they were breadcrumbs leading him straight to the truth I wasn't ready to face. His questions about my whereabouts, the unusual shifts at work, they all pointed to a storm brewing on the horizon. Sitting there, watching the man I married grow more distant with each passing day, I was at war with myself. A part of me wanted to scream out the truth, to shatter the illusion of our perfect life. But another part, the part that craved the thrill of the secret, of Alex, kept me silent. As the chapter of our 5th anniversary closed, leaving us on the precipice of an unknown future, I couldn't help but wonder, was the excitement worth the price? The answer, though I wasn't ready to admit it, lay quietly in the wreckage of the trust I had so carelessly shattered. The moment Michael pulled that hotel receipt from my purse, my heart didn't just skip a beat, it practically stopped. What's this? His voice was calm, too calm. It was for a night I'd told him I was buried in paperwork at the store. Oh, that? I scrambled for an explanation, my mind racing. It's a surprise. I was planning a weekend getaway for us. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but desperation made it sound convincingly sweet. He looked at me, a flicker of doubt in his eyes, then smiled. Really? That sounds amazing, babe. And just like that, the confrontation I'd dreaded evaporated. But the relief was short-lived, replaced by a heavy cloak of guilt as I watched the trust in his eyes, undiminished by my deceit. The affair with Alex, which had started as a thrilling escape, was morphing into something more intense, more demanding. Our clandestine meetings were no longer just about stolen moments. They were becoming the core of my day, eclipsing the life I had with Michael. It was during one of those rare moments of solitude that Zoe cornered me. Laura, what are you doing? Her voice was a mix of concern and accusation. This isn't you. Think about what you're risking. I shrugged off her words with a laugh that sounded more hollow than I intended. I've got it under control, I lied, both to her and to myself. I believed I could navigate the treacherous waters between my marriage and my affair without capsizing. Zoe wasn't convinced, but I wasn't looking for conviction. Alex's patience, however, was wearing thin. I can't keep doing this, he said one evening, his frustration slicing through the warm air between us. It's me or him, Laura. I'm tired of being your secret. His ultimatum hit me like a cold wave. The thought of choosing was paralyzing. With Michael, it was the comfort of a shared history, a love that was familiar and warm. With Alex, it was the allure of passion, of something new and intoxicatingly uncertain. Standing at the crossroads, the weight of my decisions pressing down on me, I realized the gravity of the game I was playing. The stakes were higher than I'd ever imagined, and the price of my indecision could be the very life I was trying to escape. As the chapter of my life twisted towards an unknown ending, I found myself caught in the web of my own lies and desires, struggling to find a way out that wouldn't destroy everything I held dear. The world seemed to pause, suspended in a moment of clarity that was as sharp as it was unwelcome. There I was, caught in the eye of a storm I had brewed, torn between the steady warmth of my marriage with Michael and the electrifying thrill of my affair with Alex. My heart, a traitor to both causes, refused to choose a side. The decision, when it came, wasn't so much a choice as it was a surrender to my basest desires. I can manage this, I whispered to my reflection, a vow to continue the double life I had been leading. The affair would remain my secret, a shadow life that thrived in the hidden corners of my days. But secrets, as I was soon to find out, have a way of unraveling at the seams. In a moment of careless haste, my worlds collided. A message, intended for Alex's eyes only, found its way to Michael. "Can't wait to see you later," it read, a ticking time bomb delivered straight into the hands of my husband. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Michael's silence was a vacuum that sucked all the air out of the room, leaving me gasping for breath. When he finally spoke, his voice was a calm that belied the storm raging in his heart. "We need to talk," he said, but the conversation I had dreaded never came. Instead, he retreated, a detective in his own marriage, sifting through the debris of our life together for evidence of my betrayal. The anniversary dinner that should have been a celebration of our love became the stage for my reckoning. Michael's calm demeanor throughout the evening was a prelude to the storm that was about to break. As he presented me with a gift, beautifully wrapped as if to mock the ugliness it concealed, my heart sank. Tearing open the paper with trembling hands, I found not a token of affection but a mirror reflecting the worst version of myself. There, amidst the remnants of my shattered illusions, lay the printed proof of my duplicity: messages, emails, snippets of a love that was never meant to be shared. The silence that followed was deafening, the air thick with the weight of words left unsaid. Michael's eyes, once a source of comfort, were now wells of sorrow and betrayal. "I thought we were building something together," he said, his voice a whisper that cut deeper than any shout could. In that moment, the full magnitude of my actions crashed into me with the force of a tidal wave. The pain I had caused, the trust I had shattered, it was all laid bare, a wound that no words could heal. As the evening wore on, the dinner that was meant to be a celebration of our past became a funeral for our future. Each bite, each sip, was a reminder of what had been lost. And as the night drew to a close, I was left with the haunting realization that some mistakes, once made, can never be undone. The moment the words left Michael's mouth, my world didn't just crumble, it shattered. "I had planned to renew our vows tonight," he said quietly, the pain evident in his voice. His eyes, once warm and loving, now held a depth of sorrow that pierced me to the core. The man who had stood by me, who had loved me unconditionally, stood before me, a victim of my selfish desires. I stared at the collection of messages I'd exchanged with Alex, each word a nail in the coffin of our marriage. The weight of my betrayal, tangible in my hands, was overwhelming. I had imagined countless scenarios of how this night could go, but none came close to the reality. Michael's disappointment, his heartbreak, was a mirror reflecting the worst parts of myself. The dinner, once meant to be a celebration of our love, ended with Michael's quiet departure. "I need time to think," were his last words before he walked out, leaving me drowning in a sea of guilt and remorse. The silence that followed was deafening, a stark reminder of the void his absence left in my heart. In my desperation, I reached out to Michael, calling, texting, anything to bridge the gap my betrayal had created. But he remained unreachable, a clear sign he needed space to heal from wounds I had inflicted. Loneliness became my constant companion, driving me to seek solace in the one person I thought could understand, Alex. But the connection that once seemed thrilling now felt empty, devoid of the secrecy that had fueled our affair. When I broached the idea of us starting anew, his response was a cold splash of reality. "I'm not looking for anything serious," he said, his indifference the final blow to my already fragile state. That moment marked my complete breakdown. The affair had ended, leaving me to face the ruins of my marriage alone. The realization of my mistake hit me with brutal clarity. I had risked everything for a fleeting thrill, and in doing so, I had lost the one person who truly mattered. As I sat in the quiet of our now empty house, the full magnitude of my actions settled in. My affair, once a secret escape, had become my prison, isolating me from the love and life I once cherished. In my quest for excitement, I had destroyed the very foundation of my happiness. The path to redemption seemed insurmountable, A journey I was now forced to undertake alone, haunted by the echoes of a love lost to my unforgivable choices. The silence was deafening, each tick of the clock a reminder of the chasm between Michael and me. With a shaky hand, I typed out a message, my phone screen blurred through tears. Michael, please, can we talk? I'm so sorry. Sent. Then another, and another, each one a desperate plea for forgiveness, for a chance to explain the unexplainable. But as days turned into weeks, my inbox remained a barren landscape of my own making, each unread message a stone in the wall Michael had built around himself. The isolation was palpable. Friends who had once filled our home with laughter now crossed the street to avoid my shame. Family gatherings became minefields, each conversation skirting around the elephant in the room. My world, once vibrant and full, had contracted to the size of my loneliness. Then, the divorce papers arrived. They were unceremonious in their delivery, a stark white envelope that weighed more than any book I'd ever held. Michael's signature was there, a final stroke of ink that severed the last tie of our entwined lives. The proceedings were a blur of legal jargon and signatures, a stark contrast to the vows we had once made to each other. Moving out was a quiet affair. I packed my life into boxes, each item a fragment of a dream we had built together. The hardest to pack was a small box of memories, photographs, ticket stubs, a dried-up corsage from our first dance. With each item I placed inside, I felt a piece of my heart tuck away with it. I heard about Michael's new beginning through the grapevine, a bitter pill to swallow. He was moving on, focusing on healing, on rebuilding the life I had torn down. The news should have brought me some comfort, knowing he was finding peace. Instead, it was a stark reminder of the consequences of my choices. In the end, I was left with nothing but the echoes of a love lost, a stark reminder of the cost of betrayal. The chapter of our lives together had closed, leaving me to navigate the aftermath of my decisions, a journey I would have to take alone. The silence of my new, stark apartment was a far cry from the life I once knew. As I sat there, surrounded by unpacked boxes that seemed as out of place as I felt, the weight of my decisions pressed heavily on me. The realization of the hurt I caused Michael and the love I squandered was a bitter pill that no amount of tears could wash away. One day, seeking solace in the anonymity of the bustling city, I found myself at the park. That's when I saw him, Michael. He was far enough that the details were blurred, but there was no mistaking his posture, the way he laughed with someone I couldn't see. He looked happy, peaceful even. The contrast between his contentment and my turmoil was as stark as night and day. Gathering every ounce of courage, I approached him. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and hope, clinging to the slim chance of forgiveness, of a word or a look that could mend the chasm between us. But as we finally stood face to face, the polite yet distant smile he offered me shattered any illusions of reconciliation. "I wish you all the best, Laura," he said, his voice void of the warmth I once knew. It was clear there was no going back. The fallout from my personal life soon spilled over into my professional one. My job at the bookstore, once a refuge, became a series of missed steps and mistakes. Eventually, my boss, with a pained expression, told me it was over. I was out. The dismissal felt like yet another link severed from the life I once cherished. Starting over wasn't easy. I found a job at a local coffee shop, a humbling change from the world of literature I so loved. Yet, in the simplicity of brewing coffee and serving pastries, I found a semblance of peace. It was in this unlikely place that I began to understand the value of simplicity, the beauty of a life uncluttered by deceit and betrayal. One day, through the grapevine of mutual acquaintances, I heard that Alex had moved to another city. The news, which once would have devastated me, now felt like the closing of a book I no longer wished to read. His departure marked the end of the affair, not with a bang but with a quiet resignation. Alone in my apartment, now slowly becoming a home, I reflected on the journey. The pain, the loss, and the stark realization of my flaws had paved the way for a new beginning. Working in the coffee shop, embracing the daily grind, I learned the importance of honesty, not just with others but with myself. As I looked out at the city that had witnessed my highest highs and lowest lows, I understood that starting over wasn't just about changing jobs or moving apartments. It was about redefining who I was, learning from my mistakes, and moving forward with a newfound appreciation for the simple, honest moments that life offers. The empty walls of my new apartment seemed to echo back the turmoil inside me. Alone, surrounded by boxes yet to be unpacked, the weight of my actions pressed heavily on my chest. It was here, in this stark, unfurnished reality, that the magnitude of my choices became undeniably clear. I had hurt the one person who had stood by me through everything, and the love I once took for granted was now a ghost haunting the edges of my new life. A chance encounter in the park threw me back into the eye of the storm. From a distance, I saw Michael. He was a picture of peace, his laughter reaching me across the green expanse, a stark contrast to the chaos within me. The sight of him, so content and unburdened, was a sharp reminder of the divide between our worlds now. Gathering every ounce of courage, I approached him, seeking closure, maybe even a sliver of forgiveness. "Michael," I called out, my voice barely a whisper against the breeze. He turned, and for a moment, it felt like no time had passed. Yet, the polite, distant smile he offered me said otherwise. We spoke, words that danced around the depth of our shared pain. He wished me well, a kindness that felt like a dagger. It was clear there was no path back to what we once had. In the aftermath, the cracks in my life grew wider. The stress, the sleepless nights, the endless loop of what-ifs had taken their toll, affecting my job performance. The bookstore, once my refuge, became a stage for my final act of failure, my dismissal. It was a low point, a tangible sign that the consequences of my actions extended beyond broken hearts. Starting over wasn't just a choice, it was a necessity. I found a job at a coffee shop, a world away from the shelves of books that knew all my secrets. It was humbling, a daily reminder of how far I'd fallen. Yet, in the simplicity of brewing coffee and the smiles of strangers, I found a semblance of peace. My journey to redemption was slow. Rebuilding friendships, especially with Zoe, required swallowing my pride and facing the hurt I'd caused head-on. Therapy sessions became my lifeline, a place to unravel the why behind my actions and to forge a path toward understanding and forgiveness. Volunteering at the local community center offered a glimpse of hope, a chance to give back and to fill the void with something meaningful. It was here, among faces that knew nothing of my past, that I began to see the possibility of a future defined by more than my mistakes. Tentatively, I stepped back into the world of dating, armed with a newfound commitment to honesty and transparency. Each tentative connection was a step away from the person I was and a step toward who I wanted to be. The lessons learned were hard-won. Communication, trust, the bedrock of any relationship, became my mantra, a vow to never repeat the past. Independence, once a word that filled me with dread, became my strength, a source of pride in the life I was rebuilding from the ground up. Yet, even as I embraced this new chapter, the shadow of my downfall lingered. The void left by the end of my marriage was a chasm that stretched wide and deep. My new life, for all its stability and growth, couldn't replicate the depth of connection, the shared history I had with Michael. Watching a couple in the park, their laughter light and easy, a mirror to a past life, I faced the truth. I had grown, learned, and even found a measure of peace. But the cost was irrevocable, the loss of my marriage, the love and life I once cherished. There was no redemption from that, only the stark realization that some choices, once made, leave a mark that shapes the rest of our lives.